let's get this done, shall we? So, if any of you remember that I ranked BFDIA 1 to 12 last year, well, you're in for more, because now I'm going to be ranking every single BFB episode. Just to keep you guys informed that I will be ranking all pre-split episodes first, and a month or two later, I'll rank all post-split episodes. For now, though, I'll only focus on ranking pre-split episodes and sharing my honest review on the first half of BFB. Alright, I believe I said enough at the start, so let us begin, shall we? This is the criteria, by the way. This is a good start to the series. To keep it in simple terms, the plot was very good and so were the characters. I'd say this though, but one thing I didn't like was that some of the characters even did much, like some of the newbies and gelatin, which I think is rather sad. I still consider this as one of Pre-Split's best and most well-run episodes, in spite of how BFB was never supposed to be perfect anyways, as they wanted to make it a simple, low-quality show like the first season, which I will go into further detail as I progress on. Mid-episode, the plot was something and all that, but it's just that with the show's imperfection. With a large cast object show, it could clearly be seen that they didn't manage most of the cast during the season too well. I mean, imagine making short episodes for a large cast object show to the point where a good chunk of the characters struggled to fully develop at all. But I will admit, the episode did have a bit of good stuff in it, like the cold open and the scenes with Beep, which I consider to be the best pre-split team among them all. Still on average quality, but significantly interesting and better than the previous episode. This episode is known to start one of BFDI's most iconic arcs in the series, the Taco War, is what I like to call it. Like I did say, this episode is better than the last one and was more entertaining. Things that I liked include the gelatin zapping scene, the taco roasting, the plot being relatively decent, and I suppose watching the characters swing round counts. Oh, and let's not forget losers saying daylight savings at all. It was amazingly funny. Meh episode. There wasn't too much entertaining stuff in it, and the plot was barely even interesting at all. What I liked most from this episode though was Beep's cake making scene, the RPSC with Marker and friends, the fire cake and steak dubstep beam in April's redemption arc. But aside from those things, this is a meh episode. I would imagine if the next episode is worse or not. But the ranking I gave for this episode is so coincidentally hilarious. This episode is shit. The plot throughout was weird as fuck, and the character management somehow managed to get worse than before. The only characters in this episode who actually did something were Ruby, Flower, Beep, and Y. Speaking of which, do you guys think that Y was robbed hard in that episode? I can't deny it. She is robbed AF. And the fact that people back then were rolling out less developed characters just sad dudes. I disliked this episode so much that I, of course, had to rank it low. Beep was the only somewhat epic part of the episode, because even though they wiped out the other team's challenge screen time, which is another reason why I hate this episode, the character management sucks, they still carried the challenger scenes, so I'll only give this episode just 1 point because of Beep. Mixed episode. It's just that most of the episode is just getting rid of the twinkle and that's it. I will admit that Donut hosting and Coiny and Pin's talk was something interesting about this episode. I also like how Taco and Bo get some sort of development in the episode. But aside from that, it's just another mixed episode with a good chunk of emptiness. Okay, so the first half of this episode is very strange because everyone goes amok after Loser gets eliminated. It becomes ironic given the later episodes of the season. The popper scene at the start was funny though. The second half did get better and was actually pretty enjoyable. I really like how a baron named Manat attempted to pull off the challenge. A shame that they lost though. Also, the background used for all my flower scenes is pretty ethereal and I like them. I'm gonna have to admit though, this episode has significantly higher quality than a typical pre-split episode. I definitely have to give it out for that matter. Another meh episode with significantly flawed writing, especially on the characters. First off, was it that necessary for Stapy to cheat? If he never cheated at all, he could have won for his team. So, why did they decide to make Stapy cheat when it was clearly not needed at all? Match was also unlikable, because like Fanny said, she got mad at Bubble for not knowing the answers when she didn't know them herself. Thank God she got her karma by getting eliminated 4 episodes later, because this episode is her worst appearance in the series to date. Once again, there were significant mistakes with some of the characters' screen time, most specifically on Death Pact and Beep here, but for some positives, Donut entertained me the most throughout the episode, and the scene with him talking to a Bernadette and Boy on the Moon was funny. I also like how the challenge the quiz. I mean, I like quizzes myself, It was nice seeing a classic Fries and Gelatin interaction at the beginning, and Fanny was also good in that episode. But all this is still not enough to make the episode good enough, so I'm sorry. This episode is the worst. It is so short that its own plot is bland as fucking hell. Nothing interesting happened in this abomination at all. The only thing that I truly liked about this episode was X hosting. I found it amazingly interesting, but that did not save the episode though. It only had one good thing, and yet alone, it hardly gave it any points at all. This is why I hereby declare BFB 9 to be the worst episode of BFB as a whole. Well, at least in my opinion. A pretty interesting episode. This had significantly better writing than usual. 4 coming back was really refreshing. Speaking of which, we got to see more War 4. They all rhyme. Obviously, we were introduced to the exit. Now that sounded nice, didn't it? Speaking of the writing, this episode had a stronger plot than usual and was definitely an improvement from the last episode, which was so hard and I can't, dude. Overall, this was a pretty good episode. I liked it. Still wish it could have been a bit more better if every single person's screen time in this episode is justified a bit better than it was. Still good though. This episode is likable. The rejoin scene was nice, especially when Leafy rejoined. She's been my favorite character from the very start, and I will keep it that way. BFDI will never be the same about her. The challenge was very fun to watch, and Bubble staying up to match was on fire, dude. This episode was decent. Well, minus the flawed length. If it was just slightly longer and everyone just had their screen time managed, then it would have been better. It's still good nonetheless. Another good pre-split episode. Among Us jokes aside, the challenge is very creative and everyone got a good amount of screen time here. But I can't really say for Fiery though. I really had to give this out that this was a more well-structured pre-split episode than usual. So I'll give it a good amount of points for that. This is the point in the series where things actually start becoming well-structured. Perhaps unintentionally, given how BFB is supposed to be imperfect. Well anyways, the writing was much better than it ever had been throughout the course of the season. More characters than usual were getting more signs of development, and it was just more fun to watch for a pre-split episode. Sure, still a few characters hardly even did anything in this episode, especially Fiery for that matter, and Book kinda went slightly too far losing her shit. But aside from that, it was still a very good episode. I enjoyed it a lot. Oh yeah, baby! My favorite episode in all of Pre-Split, and perhaps the most well-written episode of Pre-Split in general. Everything about this episode was just so good, especially compared to the rest of Pre-Split. The writing was even better than the last episode, and the plot was epic! I've never even seen a Pre-Split episode have this much quality in my life. What I most especially liked were the adventures of Timansky and Beep in that episode. And let's not forget about Book's redemption arc in this episode as well. This will always be hands down the best Pre-Split episode in BFDI history. Nothing else. A good episode, but not as good as the last 2 episodes. Sure, the writing still maintains its improvements, but compared to BFB 13 and 14, the quality here appears worse and more basic, but it's still good. There was some interesting stuff in the episode, but not as much. There were still some epic scenes though, specifically those including Blocky sabotaging free food, the return of the dodging pattern, and the final showdown near the end was also entertaining. Also, there was Fiery and Weepy's divorce arc. I wasn't too annoyed about it compared to my younger self, simply because I don't ship Fiery and Weepy. They're just friends. And let's not forget everyone forgiving Taco after their mistake. What a great way to end that hilarious war. But anyways, I liked this episode, but not as much as the last 2 to be exact. This is the last pre-split episode. Alright, let's be real here. This was the one episode that made us lose our shit a lot when we first saw this. In my case, it wasn't because of 2 quote-unquote ruining the show. It was because more on my side of the situation. I believe that 2 ruined G Nacho's flawless BFB predictions severely as a result. Yes, I still remember that he made this a really long time ago. Shout out to G Nacho, by the way, link in the description. I did calm down about it a month ago and warned that I was to solve the problem of BFB's increasing quality, delaying it. Basically, they want to make BFB low quality again and have the high quality transfer to another season to make things even. I was now cool with the split and moved on to watch post-split. Obviously, if the split never happened, BFB could take forever to finish because of its newly improved quality. So the split was never made to be a bad idea in the first place. Now back to context, the episode itself was still pretty generally great. The escape scenes were epic and everything else was also epic. I had no problems with either cast, but it's just how I view the series as a whole. Everyone has their own ways, so it's best to keep that in mind. So overall, pre-split was mid like I thought it would be. Yes, the single-digit episodes didn't do too well, since a good chunk of them were mid. BFB 1 and 7 were the only good single-digit pre-split episodes. The double-digit episodes got better, though, since all of them were good, especially BFB 13 and 14, with the latter being my favorite pre-split episode and always will be. To make it clear so people can understand, BFB was never supposed to be perfect in the first place, since it was supposed to be a more swappy, fast-paced season, which best explains why post-split is the same. I won't spoil too much on what's going to come in my post-split review, but because BFB was supposed to be imperfect, it was. It's most significantly proven by the show's constant short episodes and ignorance that prevents giving a good chunk of the characters' actual character development for most of the time, as only a few had throughout pre-split. Not to mention that nearly half of pre-split itself is average or below. In spite of a good chunk of the OSC liking pre-split itself is hardly even consistent. Just to keep you in mind that this is just my personal opinion on pre-split itself and its episodes, you all have the right to like or hate certain things, so don't worry about that. Well, that's it for my conclusion. Overall, pre-split gets a 5.6 out of 10. It's fine, but has significant flaws like I just explained. But since BFB is supposed to be swappy in the first place, that is something I can't argue against. It's what they want to do this season, I respect it. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed my review of pre-split episodes, and I hope you all have a good rest of your day. Bye, and don't worry, I'll be ranking post-split in the next 1 or 2 months or so.